Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and we have two meetings tonight. We have a special meeting of the Urbana City Council, which will be followed by the Committee of the Whole, which will be chaired by Michael Madigan. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Madigan?
Here.
Ms. Marlin?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smythe?
Here.
Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is petitions and communications. If anybody wants to address the Urbana City Council, we have these little white cards, and if you want to address the Committee of the Whole, there are the little yellow sheets. The first person I have is Victoria Gonzalez. Victoria? Okay. So please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to discuss whatever you'd like.
Victoria Gonzalez, 1501 Bluegrass Lane, Champaign, Illinois.
Okay.
And I'm here to address the banquet hall, VIP.
VIP application for a liquor license.
Okay.
We were really here just to see if the council had any questions concerning our application.
Okay. That is on the agenda for the Committee of the Whole at the next meeting. So does anybody have a question you want to ask about the liquor license? I don't think we have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And John Dodson, about the banquet hall? Did I get the name right? Is it John Dodson, 501 West University? Oh, that's you? Okay, all right. Esther Pat.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name's Esther Pat, and I'm the director of the Champaign-Urbana Tenant Union. This is the month when most leases turn over, so I want to come and talk to you about code enforcement since I've been watching what cities, including Urbana, have been doing for almost 37 years that I've been working there. There are too many tenants who are leasing from landlords who know that when you give them a notice to correct code violations, you don't mean it. They know that because they have had the experience of receiving notices to correct code violations, have failed to do so, and faced no negative consequence. You hear a lot of discussion about Paul Zarucki, but looking at my 10-year complaint record, Anthony Donato, the University Group, Campus Property Management, Peter Boxa, and the various companies that have managed for him, Kennedy Wilson, before that Green Street Realty, are all landlords who've had the experience of ignoring at least the first notice of violation without any consequence. You need to increase the fine for landlords who do not correct code violations, impose it after the first deadline, and make those fines automatic. At 1305 East Silver, where Paul Zarucki is the landlord, one of the biggest problems for tenants has been roach infestation, which was cited last January during systematic inspection. The inspectors have been out there, at least a dozen times, probably more, inspected, re-inspected, re-inspected. May 29th, 4 months after the first notice, the apartments were still infested. The landlord was still not fined. He was given a fourth deadline, and the inspectors at that point did require that he hire a professional exterminator. Well, next inspection, June 14th, there were still roaches. He had not yet had it professionally sprayed, but he did hire an exterminator. He hired them to spray once a month the baseboards in the kitchens and bathrooms. Good landlords hire exterminators to spray baseboards in kitchens and bathrooms once a month as a preventative measure when there is no infestation. When there is infestation, you need to do more. He has not, and that's why today, August 12th, 7 months after the city first cited the violation, the tenants are still plagued by roaches. This time last year, a tenant moved into 502 West Elm Street and saw a hole in her ceiling through which she could see the hole in the roof. She reported the problem to her landlord, Campus Property Management, who came out fairly quickly and repaired the ceiling, but not the roof. Labor Day weekend, when we had that big rain, water came pouring through her bedroom ceiling. She came to the city for help. The inspector came out right away, as they always do, and a notice was sent to the landlord. As notices always state, it said that there may be a fine, and the fine is only $100. In April of this year, more than 5 months after the deadline, the problem had still not been resolved, and the condition of the apartment was so bad that the city condemned it. The tenant got 5 days to move and had nowhere to go and couldn't afford anything else. She was very sorry that she ever got involved with the city of Urbana on this problem, and the landlord was not fined, not even the $100. I believe that if Campus Property Management had received a notice saying, correct by October 24th, or you will be fined $750, they would have corrected it. This is a win-win proposition for the city. If having automatic fines and putting them in place for the first violation, I think that if you did that, and it always happened, and the fine were $750, that fewer tenants would suffer from substandard housing conditions, and a whole lot of staff time would be saved on the inspection and reinspection and reinspection. It's win-win, because if I'm totally wrong and fines do not act as a deterrent against recalcitrant landlords, you'll at least get the fine revenue. Right now, you're not getting compliance or any money. What's the point? It's essential you make the fines automatic. As long as it's...
You have 1 minute,
Thank you.
Ms.
The
Pat.
city may fine. You just put the housing inspectors in the hot seat to be harassed and bullied by the landlords. And while all landlords aren't bullies, several of the ones who are the bad at code compliance are also the ones I know. They bully people because they bully their tenants. They try to bully me and my staff, and I'm not at all surprised to hear that they try to bully your staff. If the fine is automatic with no staff discretion, the only people the landlord can blame are you, and y'all are in a position to take it. Keep in mind, as far as amounts of fines, that you fine a 20-year-old $300 if she gets caught drinking a beer 2 weeks before her 21st birthday. And there is no, well, it's so close, blah, 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 or we'll give her a warning and a chance to correct. No, for most fines, there's no chance to correct. People just have to pay them. With landlords, they know they're supposed to keep the place up to code. When you catch them with violations, you don't fine them. You give them an opportunity to correct, and that's fine. You give them 30 days for work that most landlords will do in less than a week. And when they still don't do it, and you don't fine them, you are not cracking down on slum landlords. You're actually teaching them how to get away with being slum landlords. I can't promise you this, but I think if you change the amount of the fine and make it automatic, you will find that you are much less likely to ever have to get to these dramatic situations where you condemn property, displace tenants, and have unhappy homeowners in the neighborhood mad about empty buildings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I had a question.
Sure.
Currently, the fine is $100, and you mentioned a $750. That's quite a difference. Is there a problem with the $100 level? Or
There is. Well, first of all, the law allows you to fine $750 a day. So giving one $750 fine is really much less than that. But just to put the $100 in perspective, the tenant union has complaint records. Any person could call the tenant union and find out what complaints have been filed at the tenant union about a particular landlord. Campus Property Management, after being the top complaint getter for many years, decided that they wanted to reduce their number of complaints. So one option would have been to do the work faster, but instead they offered $100 apiece to at least 11 different tenant union clients just to withdraw the complaint from the tenant union record. That's how little $100 is to them. And these were, and the complaint, this is after the work was done, 5 months to get the repair done, then it's finally done, and it's closed. Then they go to the tenant and say, hey, we took care of it. Will you drop the complaint? We'll give you $100. I think that $100 is just too low, and that is just one example that proves it.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Esther. You have had a big impact already, and we are looking at raising the fines and also shortening the deadlines for tenant generated complaints
Oh, my.
rather than just the property ones. So I appreciate your input on this, and we will get it changed and fixed. So thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Terry Townsend.
Takes me a little time to get up here. I hope I didn't use my 5 minutes.
No, it's after you give your name and address.
Terry Townsend, 2806 Rachel, former Vice Chairman of the Housing Authority of Champaign County. On July 25th, 2013, for the second time, I made the Housing Authority of Champaign County and the County Board aware that federal regulations and the intergovernmental agreement among the City of Champaign, the City of Urbana, and the Champaign County Board were being violated by allowing individuals who were not elected or appointed to sit on the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. After an extensive investigation and multiple legal reviews, the Champaign County Board Chair has found that the Housing Authority Chair was never elected or appointed. I wonder if this body knew. Today, I ask for the resignation of 2 Urbana appointees to the Housing Authority of Champaign County, Janice Mitchell and Eddie Adair. Janice Mitchell is an outreach staff person for the Urbana School District and a Housing Authority Board member. She is the founder and CEO of the much-needed Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center. The center is housed in a building that is owned by the Housing Authority. The fact that the City of Urbana appointed Mrs. Mitchell to the board of the Housing Authority and simultaneously funds the center is a cause of concern to many in the community, or both the law and the spirit of the law being ignored. This perception problem diminishes the trust amongst taxpayers for the City of Urbana, Urbana School District, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Development. Considering other conflicts of interest issues at the Housing Authority, it appears that the appointing authorities to the Housing Authority have created a culture of private inurement. Eddie Adair is a respected retired police professional. By way of Freedom of Information Act request, it was learned that the Housing Authority, and these are HUD's words, the executive director is giving Section 8 vouchers to persons who are not on the waiting list. The U.S. Department of Housing and Development requested that the executive director provide a letter in writing to our office stating that he will follow the rules and regulations of HUD and the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Adair was the Housing Authority officer that attended the closeout conference when HUD made a visit and arrived at their findings. It is my understanding that Mr. Adair did not share the aforementioned with all members of the Housing Authority Board or the public. If true, Mr. Adair should offer his services to a less challenging board. Honorable Mayor Pressing, you're an important member of the Regional Planning Commission. I believe you're not aware of the thousands of dollars that the Regional Planning Commission and the Housing Authority have had to return to the federal government because of mismanagement. And at the same time, the director of the Housing Authority has been sitting with you on the Regional Planning Commission board. The Housing Authority is a municipal corporation. It must take its responsibilities to the poor, minorities, African Americans, and the disabled seriously, and so must all units of government. I am compelled to call for a federal investigation because it involves this city, it involves the City of Champaign, it involves the county board. I ask for the Reverend Bishop Lloyd Gwynn to leave the Housing Authority. He did resign because of a conflict of interest. You appoint people to this board. If you appoint, you have a responsibility to monitor them, and that's what I'm trying to do. We can't clean this up. It's beyond belief that anybody would be sitting as a Housing Authority Commissioner since 2009 and was never appointed and never elected. And we still don't have an answer. How did that happen? I'm getting no joy out of this. I'm trying to clean up something. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Can you send me something about okay, we'll take a good look at it. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor,
Other documents I'll send you later too, Mayor.
Okay. Yes.
quick question. Mr. Townsend,
Mr. Townsend.
Mr. Townsend,
You have a question here.
I'm chairing the committee of the whole this evening. I'm chairing the committee of the whole this evening, and you also filled out a slip.
Yeah,
I'm
just
assuming you want to,
disregard
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there,
Can I ask
Carol?
one
Sure.
question? I'm sorry. But Terry, I know you.
Should sit down.
Have you formally filed with the Federal Housing Authority Board to investigate this? And has there been any looking at this from the county? I know that initially it was set that there was no appointment from the chair of the county board. Have you had a response from the county board in relationship to that?
The county board, yes. The county board, first the county board. They sent out a letter Friday
Okay.
saying that their investigation had determined that there had been no appointment or no election. The question of how that person got on the board, it's still not answered. HUD Central, I've talked with them. They're waiting for me to send them something. So I would turn what evidence I have over to the mayor of Champaign, to the county board, to all the appointing authorities, so that you can begin to look and see what I'm talking about. And if you disagree with me, fine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the city council? Okay, we'll move on. Ordinance number 2013-08-072, an ordinance amending to create an emergency exception to the ordinance concerning the purchase of equipment and/or supply in excess of $10,000. And we have Bill Gray, Director of Public Works, to explain this.
Thank you, Mayor. Operations Manager John Collins is here to assist. But basically, as the memo mentions, the main fire station, which is attached to this building here, air conditioning unit went out on July 22nd. We deemed it to be an emergency and immediately sought proposals. The low proposal is around $13,000 to replace the unit. It's 19 years old. Under our purchasing authority, anything over $10,000 typically go through a formal bid and specifications, and go through that process to determine the provider and the low bidder. Knowing that time was of the essence because of the time of year, albeit we've had more or less favorable temperatures, still the fire department does literally live 24/7 in their facilities when they're not out responding to various calls. We felt it important to expedite the process. We're poised to actually award a contract to the low provider, but we wanted to not go through the formal process, hence the reason for the request. Tonight's meeting and the ordinance is basically for City Council to confirm Mayor's decision in this matter. And then as a second matter, we really don't have a process to respond to emergencies that do come from time to time. And what's outlined in an ordinance would be essentially staff would discuss with the mayor or his or her designee the appropriateness of an emergency to go through the process of seeking proposals in lieu of a formal bid opening process, and determining what course of action to take. So it would be just expediting things more quickly. And as fate would have it, we have a real live example tonight because the air conditioning unit that deals with this part of the city building went out last week and has to be replaced also. It's 19 years old also. It sits in the brick shelter just north of the city building. So we have two examples of untimely but air conditioning compressor units that have to be replaced.
Okay. Any questions for Bill? Dennis?
Okay, I appreciate the need to expedite this, and I see that the ordinance refers specifically to conditions that arise concerning potential danger to health, safety, or welfare of staff or employees. So we're not talking about cutting a lawn, or we're not talking about emergency equipment that has to be done that has nothing to do with health, safety, and the protection of individuals' environment while they're employed at the city.
Correct. Actually, the classic example would be April 19th, 1996, and a tornado goes through the community. We have a lot of extraordinary costs involved, and we have to make decisions quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You need a spending authority approval by the mayor of greater than $10,000. So it's true. I mean, that's a classic example of a true emergency situation. But air conditioning units go out, or maybe a huge roof leak or something that can't wait.
Right.
It's those clear exceptions, and of course, it's always the understanding, discretion, and approval of the mayor or his or her designee.
Carol?
I am certainly, as far as purchasing the air condition under this immediate request, I would support, but extending it beyond that immediate request, I would not support. I have extensive experience of purchasing, not following purchasing procedures, and the interpretation of emergency. That becomes questionable. I think at any point, this council can call a special meeting. At any point, we have the authority and the ability to do that, to respond to emergency situations. Anytime you remove the purchasing policy, things kind of get slid in, and later the council, the body does not know that that purchase took place until afterwards. So I would not support the extending of this and would not recommend the extending of it outside of this emergency situation, and that the council would use its authority to call the meetings as necessary to address any other emergency that may arise. The other thing about this is that city equipment, the buildings, the roofs, those things should be on annual inspections, and they should be repaired after a certain period of time. As we know, things only have a certain life. And so some emergencies are not necessarily emergencies if we put them on the rotation as they should be. And so I would not support the second part of the request.
Anyone else? Dennis?
Well, I'll make a motion to support the first ordinance, which has to do with the emergency replacement of a particular item, ordinance number 2013-08072. So I move approval of that.
073, did you say?
2, the first one. Item number 3, Roman numeral 3.
Okay. That's for the specific air conditioner. Okay. So motion by Dennis Roberts, seconded by Carol Ammons. Any discussion? Bill Gray.
Point of clarification, the packet has the ordinances in reverse order, just to not be confused.
Oh, is that
that's
right?
what threw me off.
Okay, so we're looking for,
But they're
just wanna
right
buy
on
air
they're right
conditioner.
on the agenda. So
Okay.
you were correct on the number, so that's fine. Okay. Any other discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Madigan,
Yes.
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries. Any other business?
Oh, we have the other.
Okay. We have the second part. Do you feel you've addressed that already? That's the general authority. Okay.
No, I have really nothing more to add, other than these situations do come up from time to time, and we'll have the identical scenario with the other air conditioning unit I just mentioned. I think it's common among agencies to have some sort of authority. As the ordinance states, if there is something that may occur, obviously we would notify the council at the very next meeting of that action. But it's your decision.
Charlie?
I think it's pretty clear that because of the way it's worded, it's except as otherwise provided. It's continuing our current policy of over 10,000, but it's very specific to me that it's equipment that affects human life, health, safety, or welfare. It's going to be reported fairly immediately to council. I think this is really necessary when you're dealing with emergency situations. We went through a couple of these, the ice storm in 1990, which time I was on the council, and things cost less back then. $10,000 is really nothing anymore. Another way to deal with this would be to change the authorization level to reflect inflation. So if we can't do it under an emergency provision, then we need to raise the threshold so that we include things like air conditioning units that are really important. Frankly, I would just support this as it's stated, and we should look long-term to changing the language for the $10,000.
Are you making a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Eric Jacobson. You want to talk, Carol? Go ahead.
I want to just go back to it just for a second, because a couple things happen when you change the level and when you change the process. From my experience with this changing level and changing process, no bid contracts become more commonplace. It's easier for you to give the contracts to vendors that you work with more consistently. You eliminate the possibility in some cases of competitive bid, and everything in some case becomes an emergency because we don't have a maintenance plan. And so all of those are reasons why I would not recommend changing levels, nor would I recommend that we allow for no bid contracts. Everything can be an emergency if we don't address the issues before they become the emergency. That is the reason why, of course, Ms. Pat came and said we have this issue with the housing. We have to deal with these issues before they become emergencies, and to change those removes a very democratic process. Minority inclusion goes completely out the window, and this is, again, the process of government shrinking as opposed to expanding.
Anyone else? Eric.
Quick bit of research. The official cost of living adjustment, the cost of living has gone up 67% since 1990. So $10,000 then would be $16,700 now. I don't know if we want to, we probably shouldn't complicate things tonight by introducing that, but it might be down the road. That might be a reasonable adjustment.
Okay. Any other comments? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
No.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
I'll say no.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.